Hi traders, this is Z with eMiningWizard.com and MarketWizards.com. A little bit after 3 o'clock on the 16th of January. And just doing a quick update for our traders. Reminder to use risk capital that you can afford to lose if you're playing this game. It's a tricky business. Reminder, we have our disclosures on the website. And truthfully, it should be capital that is discretionary and actually enough to make a difference. It's okay to be learning if you've got a small account, but to have something meaningful, you need to accumulate capital so that you can withstand the drawdowns and mistakes that we're going to make and eventually let the law of large numbers help us. All right, we're taking a look at step by step, and certainly this was a very tedious day. Early this morning, I had said that this exact low, when we were talking first thing, 7 o'clock, 7:15 this morning, I said this is our support low until broken, and the shorts will need to beat that or else they can get squeezed again. And of course, the hard part is knowing exactly the timing and the place, and it all looks so complicated, but in its simplest form, we're looking at one step at a time, one box at a time. And the bottom line is when we get to our first primary target zone at 24.25, better odds to make sure you take profits. And that is not bearish. That is simply a profit-taking swing. And we had suggested make sure you're paid in this 14 to 12 with trailers. The first, we said 17s to 15s, make sure you're paid. And then we get that W that forms, and this is still support until broken. And then we get the push, the retest failure, and then we come back down at lunch. And I said at the time that, realistically, lunch is very, very choppy typically. Probably going to wait for news and see what the market does. But we can see on this chart how this level holds and then sneaks up to the next and then scoots through that. And this is your double top test. And here we are still with this notion that, okay, we've not quite reached the potential targets for the day, but we have had a reasonable day to the upside. So your timing becomes risk and reward ideas for getting the last perceived targets for the day. And this is where I'd said earlier today that you've got to be very conservative as we get into the 20s today, because risk and reward should start to come in. So this is the step-by-step process. And right now, this is our resistance box just above us. And the fighting box is here from this 20.5 or 20.75. And that's actually a double in the afternoon session. So we've got to undermine that level and then come back down. And that's what I said. Anybody that wants an aggressive trade, you've got to be using this overnight high at 17 as your support. And this is the range that we are now trading the way I see it. So on a very tiny scale, we can say that this middle box and this snowman is our current fighting range, albeit, I was going to say like a couple of little girls, punching at each other, but, let's give the girls their credit. There's some tough ladies out there. We know that. So like two little wimps, let's use that word, two little wimps fighting. And you could tell by the size of these bars. Look how small these bars are. There's not a lot of power in these bars. It's all just chop and a squeeze type of trade up. So in a 3-box system of this nature right now, if you say you're out all day and you're just coming in, then you can just focus on these 3 boxes. Say, okay, I guess this is my resistance, this is my support box, and then this is my fighting box right now. And that will at least allow you to make some decisions. So now we're looking at the 5-minute RTH. We've held this blue line, held this, and we've scooted up here. We've double top, but basically we've been testing that 25 zone. But we still have not been able to undermine this blue line. That's pretty important to try to hold the slope. But we can see this down bar right here that excites the shorts. And then we get this trap and squeeze yet again. Let's take one more look at another chart. Okay, here's our 15-minute Globex, and we had noted how this had held beautifully today in the pullbacks and then bounce and then squeeze back up. So we're certainly not in a bearish formation at all just because we're near the target zone. And in fact, the best thing you can do is kind of trail moves if you have the courage to just hang around all day and allow the market to work. That type of patience is very difficult for some traders, and I'm one of them, truthfully. Because you like to get into the market, get some business done, and get out. I love the fast moves. These are type of the moves that drive me nuts because it's like a slow motion water torture. You have an idea of what the market is trying to do, and yet it's doing it so slowly. It's like talking to somebody that really has that southern drawl and has no hurry and trying to complete his sentence. And you try to complete the sentence for him. So this chart tells us that it's still above this 17 that I've suggested is your aggressive support. If you're trying to hang in there till that breaks, that's our support right now. Trying to push up and see if there's anything left in the day. And you get to the point where if you've traded for a while and you've got your vig for the day, you want to start to be conservative about protecting your capital that you've worked all day. You don't want to give it all back in 10 or 15 minutes because you get sloppy or you get tired. And here is our predictive model, which we have used today, and we said 02.5 support. Got to the 17s, pulled back. We said be very aware of this first high from yesterday. That's why that blue line is there, and that's why this caught my eye this morning, that 7 area, 675.07, because that was that breakout. And we've got up here this morning, we've pulled back, but we've maintained this level. And this is the normal chart for today, not the weekly, but for today. And this one shows these 3 boxes that we are now basically trying to resolve. This is a great look at this method, this part of our step-by-step. And we said that this morning. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do know step by step what could happen. So we look as time elapses, we look to see where we are and what's holding and what isn't. We have not spent a whole lot of time under this 17. We can see that. We got up there, we came back, and so this is a pivot right now, the way I look at it. That first overnight high, as long as we can maintain traction above it, then the squeeze is still on. And we got about 45 minutes or so, about an hour to 45 minutes left, and we can go to any high today in a squeeze, but I'm encouraging you to keep a tight stop at this point if you're trying to squeeze long side with the boys. Markets can turn on a dime, as we've seen before. And day traders at some point like to come out, hold overnight. So as a day trader, you're thinking, okay, I can hang in there as long as my stop's intact, but certainly I don't want to work for 4 or 5 hours and then wind up give it back. Just not common sense. And here's a look at the 2 years side by side. And currently we are looking at the bounce. This would be a couple years ago, and this is last year's range, and we can see how we're coming into that middle. This is a 456 trade. Market trying to get to that 32. Talked about this now for a number of weeks, step by step. Don't forget, this is a options X week too. So anyone who has tried to get to this retest back here of the middle, again, cautioning you to think that the lion's share of that trade is done. And who knows, we could go to the next level or the next or to even take out last year's high. That's what all the longs would love to do. But for now, we're still going to maintain our system, which is one step at a time. And we're going to try to understand how we can take a few points out of every day per contract and accumulate some capital with the least amount of risk as possible. And taking a last look at a chart that we had looked at earlier, we had said that this was going to be our support, this little blue box we've got right here. So that was going to be support until broken, and the shorts had to undo this. The higher that this bounce goes for retest failure, then the harder it makes to believe that we're coming down and taking that out. So anybody that's long side time and price, we are suggesting make sure you are paid. Anybody wants to short, you got to use that 32 as your resistance. 28 aggressive and 28 to 32, because those are resistance targets. And this is our demon right here. Take one last look at the demon. Here's our angels and demons look. We can certainly see, remember before I said that we had a triangle that was being formed, and at the time that triangle, what I saw was this, that we were making lower highs and higher lows, and it would get resolved. Usually it'll get resolved in some type of a rectangle. Not a lot of power when it comes out at the front end of it. Much more effective if it's a flat top and in a wedge type environment. But we can definitely see that, you know, this has certainly been some kind of a channel. It's been riding up, making higher highs and higher lows. That's the pattern that has continued. All I can suggest to you, if you're a newer trader learning this with our system, is try to understand how the market ratchets up in an uptrend, and it uses gaps to do that, and it catches traders trying too hard to fight the trend. There's been no evidence yet that the generals want to take it south side. We'll know when they want to take it. You'll see that this looks terrible. This looks like, oh my God, that's it, it's going. And yet we said at the time that was just really a pullback into the middle and into the support right at the blue line. And this is what catches a lot of traders, because now all of a sudden the assumption is that, okay, that's it, no more. And yet this is what happens in all this squeeze material. So all I can tell you is, as a trader, when you're wrong, protect your capital, give up a little bit, and when you're right, try to manage a trailer and get a little bit more out of it. And know the zones you want to do business at. And we can obviously see this thrust on the beginning of January and never, excuse me, never look back. It's rocking and rolling. Step by step. The Z for eMiniWizard.com and MarketWizards.com saying protect your capital, live to fight another day, and not every day is created equal. Sometimes there are better opportunities than others. Today was a day, really, you had to be somewhat aggressive to play today. And if you were not an aggressive trader, then probably today you didn't do much of anything. And that's okay. There will be days when that happens. But learn to see the bigger picture and the idea that we've been proposing of buying support in an uptrend till it stops working. Be well. Thanks for listening.